Welcome to LEC Update, the show you never thought you needed, and once you've seen it, you'll know for sure.
I'm Evie de Portere.
And I'm Christy Frierson. It's finals weekend, and everyone in here is excited. So yeah, I'm excited. Last week gave us the most successful outcome we really could have ever asked for. We saw our new playoffs format in action, with G2 making full use out of the double elimination element, and Fnatic taming the Mad Lions, who now get a rematch versus G2 today. And best of all, we purged all the teams that take 40 plus minutes to close out their games.
Also last week, we finally got emotes enabled on the LEC in the LEC, and they were a lot of fun. For some. Last Sunday, Destiny flashed the FPX emote, which will be the closest he'll ever get to a Worlds final. And after that series, it's also become perfectly clear that Deficio will be the only person from that org who will ever make it there.
Ouch! This week on Euphoria, Bwipo let Jankos pick out an emote for him, so we figured we should help G2 and Mad Lions pick out their entire wheel. And if Mad Lions manage to pick up the win against G2, well, we've got the perfect strategy for them on Sunday against Fnatic. Honestly though, you have to feel a little bit bad for G2. They just can't escape their past. First, Destiny threw the jab with the FPX emote, then Riot came in with the Haymaker by dropping the entire FPX World skin line in the same week. Brutal.
Well, Carlos of Gamers2 Incorporated still has high hopes for this weekend, and as always, G2, they are holding a live viewing party from their headquarters right here in Berlin. So let's check in with Carlos and see what he has to say. Oof.
I thought you said that was a G2 viewing party, not a Mad Lions fan meet. Jokes aside though, I think what Mad Lions have done this split is truly impressive. To come fresh into the league, bringing 4 rookies onto their starting roster, and to take down G2 in playoffs, it's incredible.
I couldn't agree more, Ender, which is exactly why I'd like to be the first person to congratulate the Mad Lions on their 3rd place finish. I mean, they have as much life left in their playoff run as we see here in Trevor, the Tiger King Henry's face on this picture.
And I'd like to take a quick second to remind all of you that Valorant drops are not actually enabled on this channel. No, please don't go. Why would you even put that in the script? Wait, who am I even looking at? No one's here.
Ender, are you okay? I mean, what's going on? And why do you keep touching your nose?
She doesn't know.
What?
Oh, it's like an inside joke. You just wouldn't get it. It's okay. You know, one thing that I'll be missing is the live interaction with all of our fans. But there is one group of fans that never lets me down. Love you, Twitch chat.
Well, moving on to the teams that no one cares about, they're all still bad. And Excel might be even worse or better. They recently announced that they'll be finding replacements for Mikyx and expect going into the summer split. Now, I can think of someone who might be on the market. I mean, PERKZ made the swap. Why can't Doublelift?
Well, that would certainly be a surprise for summer, but Misfits were the big surprise of the spring split, sprinting out of the gate with an 8-game win streak. Now, Shocks, I know I've messed this up a few times in the past, but I promise I'm going to get his name right this time around. I promise you. Here to talk to us about his experience in his first ever LEC split is Misfits AD carry B-Void.
Hey, what's up, Ender? What's up, Europe? How have I been performing this split? I think it's pretty crazy how I've been a top performing AD carry in the league when I don't even play this role, and I've been playing for Mane with like 300 ping this whole time. I don't know if that says a lot about me or the AD carries in Europe, but I mean, you be the judge of that. But y'all already know we've been doing it for a decade. Season 1, rank 1. We ain't gonna stop now. Hope you got... Wait, what? They saying get off the air? Oh god. Okay, follow me on twitch.tv/4boy, youtube.com/4boy, Instagram @4boy, by Frozen Mallet, NA rules, peace, hey!
I knew it! I knew he was Void Boy all along!
Well, that does it for the final LEC update of the Spring Split. This weekend we will crown our next LEC champion.
And don't forget, the losers will be sacrificed to Cthulhu!
Indeed. Well, let's send it down to Quickshot for this weekend's opening ceremony.
Welcome to the Arena du Freak. We are minutes away from the LEC Spring Split Finals. 13 weeks ago, the LEC began with 10 teams vying for the title. 7 of them failed to make it here to Freak's basement. And this weekend, the 3 best teams in Europe take to this stage to do battle for the right to be crowned your champion. Europe, who will win the title? Oh, I guess Freak, who will win the title?
What? How did you even get here? Whatever this is, stop it and leave.
Hello everyone and welcome to the LEC Spring Semi-Finals. The Mad Lions, they shocked everyone when they beat G2 Esports, and tonight the rookies have to strike again in this matchup to make it to the final. I'm Shox and I'm joined here by FLICKR and by VoD. And if we had trouble of getting into kind of the hype and the atmosphere in the past couple of weeks because we're just at home, none of that today. I am fully ready for this best of 5.
I'm completely aligned with you, Shox. How can we not be excited? It has been a difficult journey. We've all had to adjust and adapt to the current circumstances, but I'm so proud of what Esports has been able to do, and on top of that, what the LEC has done to bring this fantastic show. You already got to see we're live here in Freak's basement, and we can't be more excited to see Mad versus G2. I'm so ready to get into it.
Awesome. Hey, VoD, I know we've been wearing pajama pants sometimes, but I noticed that you're at a standing desk, so
Yeah.
Are you wearing
is
pants?
it pajama pants?
I am wearing trousers. I came
Alright.
fully prepared. I put a shirt on. I have jeans on. I'm ready. I don't have shoes on, though. I will be honest.
Okay, but that's all right. All right, I feel like we've set up the stage to get into kind of the nitty-gritty of what we've got going on, and we've got huge stakes coming into this weekend. We are, of course, crowning our next LEC champion this weekend. Semi-finals today, finals tomorrow. And as we take a look at this bracket, I just want to reiterate how these LEC playoffs are unlike anything we've seen before. The top 3 coming into it from the regular season have not ended up where we thought they would, and it's pandemonium.
The tables have turned. Everything that you thought you knew, throw it all out. This is not Origin, it's Mad Lions that took down G2 in the upset and now find themselves in top 3. This is not G2 being the villains, the final boss. This is G2 coming from the lower bracket on the back foot and fighting up. And this is Fnatic returning into form, being far stronger than we've ever seen this team in the past few years, having a clear shot as the heavyweights to lift the title.
And now, quite a few people have asked, does this mean, because Fnatic are in the winner side of the bracket, that they'll have to play 2 best-of-5s so they get some kind of advantage? We just want to clarify that the big advantage that they do gain is that they don't have to play 2 best-of-5s. And Deficio came on PGL a few weeks ago and talked to us about how when he was in the final last year, having to prep for a team and then go on to play an even stronger or expected stronger team the next day is an extremely challenging task. So the teams are happy. Fnatic's definitely going to be feeling very comfortable sitting in that position, and they're going to get to watch today to prep for whoever they go up against tomorrow in that big best-of-5 final.
That they will. 2 fantastic best of 5s coming up for us, and more action. Today we have an hour ready check. Tomorrow we'll have an hour ready check as well at 4 p.m. And before that, tomorrow at 3 p.m. We will have Robin Schultz playing a live DJ set ahead of the LEC Spring Finals, so you can jam it out from home. I definitely will be.
Silent disco.
Let's go. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Be sure to spam in chat and just get your dance on before the finals. So a lot of action will keep you entertained for sure. But now let's focus in on the teams that are remaining and also the last team we saw exiting last week, which is Origin, and get a bit of a recap about last week's matches. Of course, there was OG versus G2. It was an elimination match for both teams, and unfortunately, the end of the road for OG and a slightly better or much better G2. I'll leave that to my analysts.
Well, a lot of eyes were definitely on G2 Esports in this best of 5, and I think we saw marked improvement in some of the areas that they were definitely lacking in their series against Mad. Namely, individual performances were much higher. We weren't seeing as many random deaths as we did see in their series versus Mad Lions, but I also thought that their macro improved dramatically. We saw quite a few mistakes coming out from OG, which G2 were very quick to punish. And I also think we saw a return of the style of G2 where they always push you to the very edge to make sure that your defenses are in line, and many times OGs were not.
Yeah, it's the fact that G2 will always skill check you. Now, putting a magnifying glass on Origin, I do want to give them credit in that best of series, we saw development and evolution from them. Finally, Origin didn't take 40 minutes to start playing the game. They were trying to play an early game, and for a couple of those games, it was their game to lose. Origin should have taken that to a farther series than it went to, but were unable to close against the execution of G2. That said, it's too late. Like, Origin, I wanted to see that development weeks ago, and so while they're still a top 4 team, that wasn't good enough for Origin, that wasn't good enough for Origin fans, and I can't wait to see what they bring in summer to try to continue to be contenders and reach for that title.
Yeah, they will be inevitably disappointed after that. However, we will indeed see them in summer. So we talked about G2 and OG. Now we need to talk about Mad. It is a bit of a mixed bag because these rookies have done fantastically all spring split. They took down G2, but last week, it wasn't that good versus Fnatic. So where are we left with our thoughts about this rookie squad ahead of their final 2 best of 5s possibly this split?
I mean, I think it's quite clear that right now there is a gap between Mad Lions and Fnatic, and I think that we can still see some positives from Mad Lions in their series versus Fnatic. We still saw a lot of the early game aggression that we saw against G2. We still saw a lot of Mad Lions sticking to the style that they know and love. And I feel like that you're seeing rapid growth and improvement from this team. And you know that coming into this week, they're going to show even more evolution with new picks, new ideas, and new play. So I think the expectation should still be high. And if they already had the formula to beat G2 once, there's no reason why they can't do it again.
I just have the highest compliments for Mad. Every time people reach to talk about this team, it's always rookies or underdogs or these kind of rising stars. And while all of that is still true, the one title that I really want to stick with Mad Lions is contender. They have proven themselves that they are contenders for the crown. They beat just G2 in a best of 5. Yeah, they got washed out by Fnatic, but they get another shot to really prove themselves. And kind of win or lose for me, Mad Lions have proven that they're about to go hard in the paint, that they're willing to be contenders and that they should be treated as such.
All right, we'll see what they do today. Sorry to cut you off. I'm checking the timing. You got to tell me when you want to jump in quicker, Vetty.
The only problem that Mad Lions are now going to face with is that they will have to go up against Fnatic again, who have looked clean. They've looked insanely clean. Fnatic are so impressive, and I think that what we're seeing from Fnatic is a clear evolution from what we saw last year, and I am nothing but impressed with the quality of gameplay that we're seeing from this team. So expectations are very high, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Fnatic can do.
If we summarize Fnatic as FLICKR and has the container laughing because Vetty just keeps talking over everyone. Oh my god. Fnatic, they are the heavy favorites. We can't beat around the bush there because no one else has left such an impressive run on the playoffs. If you look at G2 who faltered, if we look at Mad Lions who couldn't keep it going versus Fnatic, they just seem a cut above everyone else and definitely in the zone to take this title tomorrow.
I mean, Fnatic steamrolled these playoffs like Vetty just steamrolled this conversation. So they're kind of like one and the same type of beast. Fnatic right now, you've seen the next evolution as Vedius was talking about. It's the fact that they can pick when and where they beat you on the map. They can beat you in the top lane. They can beat you in the bot lane. They can beat you 2v2 in jungle mid. And they can choose to do it completely different from game 1 to game 2. And that's why they're such a threat.
Yeah, they are so incredibly scary. And while the LEC concludes this weekend, there's of course more League of Legends coming up next week with EU Masters. Xscoundrel is one of the casters for the event, and he is here to give you the TLDR of the action.
Hey everyone, my name is Xscoundrel and I'm here to tell you about the European Masters, which begins on Wednesday the 22nd of April. That's next week. Now, for those of you that don't know, the European Masters is a tournament that brings together the very best in European Regional League talent and offers them a grand total prize pool of 150,000 euros to play for. Not only do they have the money on the line, but they also have the European Regional League pride. The winners get to call themselves the best European Regional League until the next European Masters rolls around. But also, this is the best opportunity that a lot of these players get to strut their stuff on a big stage. We have seen European Masters players go on to play in the LEC, and we just saw Mad Lions dispatch G2, the European champions and world finalists, and 3 of their players came from the European Masters. Carzzy won it with Berlin International Gaming, and Shadow and Kaiser were in the top 4. So it breeds incredible talent that can perform on the highest level in Europe. Now, this European Masters, I don't have a favourite because there are just so many good teams, but I'm going to mention a couple of players that you definitely want to keep your eyes on. It is the return of Leader. He is coming back to reclaim his throne. We have got Tinks, who was an absolute monster in the first ever European Masters. And for those of you OG European fans, Yellowstar is playing support for LDLC. Yellowstar is back playing at the highest level of European competition. Make sure you check it out on twitch.tv/EU Masters or watch.lolesports.com. We'll see you next week.
Well, fantastic stuff there from Xscoundrel, and the proof is in the pudding once again. The Mad Lions were a rookie squad mostly, who are doing fantastic things in the Spring Split, and as always, you can watch the EU Masters to scout that next talent we'll see on the big stage, and also some of the older talent coming back apparently with Yellowstar.
Yeah, and reminder, kind of 7 out of the 15 players playing in this weekend series debuted in EU Masters, so you got to look at them in EU Masters. So you heard it from Xscoundrel there. There's always names to keep track of, and not just the ones that you know and love like Yellowstar.
And we know that competition in EU Masters is constantly elevating as well. So I am very excited. It's because I didn't unmute on Discord, so they all heard me on stream.
I was trying to help us out. I was like, oh, unplug the mic.
You think we'd have this all sorted out,
on EU Masters broadcast, you won't get issues like that because they only have the highest up-and-coming talent as well. So you know it's always going to be a fantastic show. Make sure you tune in.
Yeah, we do apologize. I mean, you thought by finals weekend we'd have this all figured out, but apparently we can't even unmute and mute when we're supposed to. I'm just gonna write it off as the excitement of the weekend. I'm sorry. I know we're letting you down, Twitch chat. You can spam at us. It's all good.
It's a slight execution error. We go to skill check the equipment there, and we just fall flat on our face.
Oh my god. I guess I'll give it to something else because we can't keep doing this. The pros, they are not holding anything back either, as we aren't either, as we'll see in this week's LEC mic check. Jesus.
Mikyx opening the door. He's moving towards our room. He's running actually. He is there in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he arrives. He's here. Yeah.
Huevo! 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 Get me starting. Good luck, someone else.
Ready, check. Are we ready?
Headsets on. Are you guys ready?
Are we ready?
Yeah. Nice.
They're going on us mid.
They're going on me. But why hinting? Isn't that a bit too much?
Just kill him after again. No, he has flash though.
Yeah.
Can you TP?
Can we TP?
Okay, it's 35, it's 35.
We win.
I flash, I barrier. Okay.
No.
Okay, this was giga greedy. We are having probot. Oh shit. So holy.
I'm going Aphelios.
No flash top.
I solo killed Aphelios. Come, Reckless. I told you can't play this game. You can't breathe against my champ.
Emote them a bit.
I did emote. Killing Aphelios. I'm killing Aphelios.
Yeah, I'm going Aphelios too, I think.
You're dead.
I mean, I can't fucking dead.
My god.
Are you killing him?
Yeah, I'm solo killing him. He's dead. I'm right clicking Aphelios. He can't play the game. He can't play the game.
I can't.
I can't help you, bro.
Oh.
Aphelios can't fight, okay?
Oh my god, I'm getting one shot by Malphite here. I can't do anything. Yeah, oh shit! Trist. Wait, don't. I'm stunning MF.
Don't go through chop.
First target.
I think we can win. Play, float MF, we win.
Yeah, I'm playing with her.
We win, but what? I didn't know they had Malphite.
Penta. No, Penta for a class.
Don't.
Penta for a class. Yeah, I'm running.
Syndra.
Nice one.
Latin. It's Latin.
If you play slow with MF, we're playing slow. Take lantern, okay.
Give me penta. We can win.
Please, just win. I think maybe.
Oh, come on. Oh my god.
And sorry. Sorry, Oscar.
Hello guys.
Can you guys hear me?
Of course, we can hear the beast. Your voice is sweet like the nectar of a honey flower.
I'm ulting.
I feel it's no flash. I feel it's no flash.
Kill no flash, Thresh no flash, both no flashes.
Look.
I ult.
Yeah.
I will ult us.
Murder him. He's nice.
Nice, guys.
She has no ult, right?
Yeah,
I can exhaust. Can we go?
They're just pushing Nexus, guys. We can't do much.
The game's over.
Yeah, he's winning.
Oh, I can't.
Can't kill it.
I'm coming.
Right on good deep if you go deep, okay?
Come to me, come to me.
Hey, look at side.
If you go deep, right on TP, okay?
He wants to TP. Just leave Hans.
Oh my god, they're so lucky.
I can go over the wall. Yeah, go on Felix,
Okay, I can
I'm
ult
ulting.
him. I'm ulting Hans, come, I will ult him.
Oh my.
Go on set, guys. Go on set.
Can we kill him? I'll come. Keep running, no?
Sedge. Alright, steal. I use might.
I got it.
You got it, nice. I had to heal up.
I'm going for a Philios. Okay, let's make them low.
Tank it.
I don't give stuff.
Have Aphelios.
Got a 2-man knock up. It's not too shabby.
This tactic might not have worked.
Are we good to go, guys?
I'm ready to go, guys.
We're 2 minutes from jump select.
Are you guys ready for the game?
Yep, I got it.
What are we looking for?
For Ezreal to not jump in with E and say, I'm dead.
That's my favorite move.
Sounds good.
If you guys are ending, then I'm not.
We are kind
We're
of
ending a bit.
Azir is tipping, Azir is
Heal me.
Look at this guy. Mark, listen.
Run now! I feel this. I'm going.
Philios is dead. We don't have healing action for this guy.
Yeah, I will probably not kill him, but he has no ult now as well. I can chase him alone.
Oh, no, give me pets.
Okay. Actually, we can get I can chain him. Yeah.
Can you die fast, please?
I can chain him.
Yes.
Give me.
Give him. Pentakill. Mark again. Okay. Yeah, we can go in.
I can feed you again. Okay.
Guys here? Yeah, I'm looking Azir. As an ult.
I ult for someone.
I killed him.
I'm on set.
MF.
We win.
Go in mid.
No! Okay, go on mid.
Yeah.
I can bait it.
Yeah.
He's just
I got a turn.
I'm dead.
Kill the tongue.
Oh. I'm looking for Varus. Get him.
Shit, guys.
Nice.
I think it's too deep. Maybe.
Don't see Aatrox. Don't see Aatrox right now, okay?
Got him, okay.
Oh shit, nice. Nice solo.
Okay, I will. We win here. I'm dead in like 10 seconds.
We go on, man.
Mitch, you can go in.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think just go in, Mitch.
I'll flash.
Like, I got stopped. This ended.
I'm out. I'm fight.
We got it. Good job.
Kill
Set as well. Careful at W. Okay, they're fine.
2 seconds from me.
Mid-lane.
Top.
Yeah.
Emote.
I'll cancel.
Oh yeah, emote. Oh shit. What bait? Okay, guys.
Always great to have a mic check. I feel like we've been deprived of seeing the player camps, of course, and the interactions we have with them in the studio and the interviews in person. But at least here, we get to see some of their heart and their shenanigans as they are playing from home.
Yeah, I think that the cams that we had of G2 actually looked very realistic. You know, the way in which they just nod their heads back and forth, the communication sounded like I was actually in the G2 household.
Yeah, and they can unmute themselves, so...
Yeah, they are doing better than us. That's true. Hey, it's a lot to do, okay? But with that, we're going to go from mic check and really focus in on some of the top performing teams, but also individual players this weekend and in the playoffs. Of course, we'll be announcing the Spring MVP tomorrow during Ready Check, but I do want to kind of get a temperature check on who has been playing out of their minds in these playoffs specifically and who you would have in mind for a playoffs MVP so far.
Well, for me, it kind of has to come from Fnatic, given how they have been playing, and Selfmade has been one of the most impressive players. I feel like when he came into the team at the beginning of the year, many of us were looking at it as a genuine upgrade. Many of us thought that, oh, largely because of how his synergy, or previous synergy with Nemesis, that would help elevate them and really improve the 2v2 mid-jungle, but that's not really where we see the biggest growth. We see a lot more champions being brought out from Selfmade. We see a lot more independent playstyle where he plays a lot more for himself, rather than traditionally playing for bot, as Fnatic have often done in the past. And I feel like he has helped evolve Fnatic to be able to play different drafts, different styles, and I think we're seeing it very much so in the playoffs as well, in terms of not only does he offer a huge amount of value to his team, but he also offers a huge amount of value just on an individual level. This guy was maxing damage numbers in the jungle carry in the first week, so I think Selfmade is just the whole package and helps elevate Fnatic to a whole new level.
Yeah, I remember when we had Kadril come onto the caster desk in the early weeks, and we got to hear Kadril's expertise talking about Selfmade as Fnatic was playing that game, and he was just giving him compliments about how well Selfmade problem solves in the jungle, how he will reinvent paths and really make you think and kind of test you on every single decision that you're making, as well as then also having the mechanic skill ceiling that he does, as well as the wide champion pool. So he really is just the complete package to upgrade Fnatic from 2019 to 2020.
And with that, it's also very impressive what he's done after, becoming Rookie of the Split and immediately getting onto that Fnatic roster, gelling with everyone, putting in the work, and now possibly getting his first LEC title. You said we have to look at Fnatic since they've been so dominating. Outside of Selfmade, is there anyone else who deserves praise on that team, or the most praise, I should say?
Yes, it is the bot lane. I know we were like, okay, MVP potential for playoffs, it has to be someone on Fnatic. Immediately Vedius jumps and he goes, Selfmade. Selfmade's got. I'm like, no. Hilly and Rekkles. And I know it's cheating because I'm technically picking two of them together, but it's really hard to separate how incredible these guys' performance are. Rekkles himself is having probably the best split that I've ever seen of his career. Anything that you could have put against Rekkles in the past no longer exists. You cannot say that he has a small champion pool. You cannot say that he's one-dimensional. You can play the Uzi style and funnel everything into Rekkles and have him hard carry, or he can play low econ, be the fasting Senna. And then next to him, Hilly has been a madman. That Trundle game, yeah, it was a little bit feast or famine, but he almost single-handedly won the game and lost the game for Fnatic. And outside of that, his Thresh has looked spotless. I think Hilly and Rekkles are having the split of their careers. I think they are a cut above any other bot lane in the LEC, and they are infinitely the best bot lane left in the tournament.
And I think that when you talk about Rekkles being able to play any style, we're even seeing it from Hylissang. The dude was playing Wits End Thresh last week. Frost, this man's primed and ready to carry too. I'm so impressed with how the bot lane are playing, and I think that they are a staple of what makes Fnatic so good, and they've been working together for such a long time now. And we're talking a lot about Fnatic, and they really are standing out, and it makes it hard when we just look at playoffs in isolation, because the entire team has had standout performances across the entirety of playoffs. So here's hoping that Fnatic can continue that performance as they head into the finals tomorrow.
And I know it sounds so basic, but just one thing for viewers to really keep track of, Hilly will trade his flash for enemy ADC flash every single time. And again, that's the basic fundamentals of bot lane, but so few LEC teams actually do it and execute on it. Fnatic and Hilly will never miss an opportunity to do it. It's part of what keeps their style so up-tempo and so aggressive.
Well, they have been very impressive. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about Fnatic since they are that team that has performed the best until now. But if you'd had to look at G2 and Mad, and of course it depends on how they're going to play today, obviously. But who could be a front runner there for a playoff MVP?
So I think that when looking at options, my thoughts immediately go to a player like Shadow. I think that his impact has been absolutely massive, and he is such a large part of what makes Mad's early games so successful. So for me, he's been a super standout this playoff specifically, and I think that he's definitely worthy of a conversation.
I mean, his Olaf performance was close to record-breaking. It was absolutely ridiculous. That said, I'm also going to pick a Mad player, and I'm going to say someone like Kaiser, or even if you go to the G2 side, someone like Mikyx. I think supports, and I just talked up Hilly a lot, I think supports are getting undervalued right now for how crucial they are in a lot of these team fights. A lot of the three teams left are very heavy skirmish-based teams, and that's something where you usually hone in on the carry, the fact that we've got 80 carries running around getting quadra and pentakills, but look at what the supports are doing. Look at how talented Kaiser, Mikyx, and Hilly are performing, and how they're creating zone and creating space for their teammates to get these pentakills.
Yeah, supports are perpetually underrated, but I think we have a very strong stack of supports in these playoffs. And we'll soon get to the match and the supports on the card today. Of course, Mikyx and Kaiser in G2 versus Mad. But first, here is something that you just have to see.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany for the LEC Finals.
Your favorite jersey, order your favorite snack. These times are tough, we know it, but we've still got your back. Can't wait to share this moment, crowning our champs today. We might be in pajamas, we'll pop off anyway. The end of this long road, one team must stand above. Now it all comes down to this, every dream and every wish. Now it all comes down to this, take a stance and fight for it. Now it all comes down to this, so chat, we've got a step for you. We are you, we are you, we are you. Made esports right from home, gave it a little flair. And when we band together, this passion will be shared. We've had some clown fiestas, but the fighters never back down. Now that the greatest have gathered, who will win to hold the crown? At the end of this long road, one team must stand above. It all comes down to this, every dream and every wish. Now it all comes down to this, take a stance and fight for it. Now it all comes down to this, so chat, we've got a step for you. We are you, we are you, we are you.
Just air guitaring there. Thaddeus, is there anything you can't do? I'm so jealous.
Get out of my bedroom!
Oh,
listen, I was told that the lighting was much better, okay? I had no choice, okay?
Open
Accept
a window,
it.
Midius!
Awesome stuff. With that also, I hope that the chat is spamming. Of course, we would never, ever check Twitch chat whilst we are on air. That would be terribly unprofessional. Like anyone who does that, that's just awful. Yeah. I hope everyone's spamming. I think hopefully someone can tweet it at us and see if they are, because we had a lot of fun making it. What was your favorite moment from the video or from making it, Frosk?
My partner thought it would be a good idea to like sing in the shower, and so I was dressed fully in clothes, and I was just soaked. She's like, "Oh, you could just spray the water towards it. Well, you won't get wet." And I came out after like 15 minutes of trying to get takes, and I was just drenched. I had to change everything. It was awful.
It's okay. Yamato did succeed though. He has the suit. I hope it's not ruined. I know how much he spends on those suits, so hopefully he didn't ruin that. With that, we're gonna hone in on some more serious matters at hand. Of course, we're gonna still make some jokes here and there, but it is Mad versus G2, a match which will decide who we will see in the finals, where the rookies look to pull off another upset.
I don't want to give away the throne to anyone.
Got the shot down, and now Destiny's getting chased off towards the bottom side. Zazi opens up with a haymaker, but you can see the damage coming out from Jankos. He's 2v1ing, and he takes them both down.
Oh, I'm pretty excited to face my Lions again and prove that I am the best jungler in LEC.
Come to my side, I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now.
G2's weakness is bot lane and our strength is bot lane, so that is a lot of fun playing against them.
Because Mad Lions, they're turning it around. Shadow is down though. GA has been popped. Carzzy is coming in for the fight. Looking at Mikyx. Look at the culling from Humanoid.
We already showed that we can challenge them, and they can't like rest on their thrones.
Thank you very much, Sharks. Law here, and joining me right now is Humanoid. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Ready for round 2 against G2?
Yeah, I hope it's gonna be as fun as last time and 5 games, you know.
Yeah, that's all we hope also. How do you prep for the same team when you beat them 2 weeks ago?
Well, so after the series against Fnatic, we could see that a lot of our like mistakes because we got kind of stumped. So we were working on those, and coming into G2, we were just prepping some new picks as well. So I think it's gonna be a different series overall in terms of drafts, but it should be a lot of fights as well. So like last time. So it's not really that different in terms of prep.
Nice. And I mean, some new picks. I'm glad because people were wondering if we saw everything from Mad Lions based on the series you had against Fnatic. But people have also been wondering, how did you guys beat G2? And I know the desk will want to talk about this later. So what is your take on the match you had against them 2 weeks ago?
I've been wondering that as well, to be honest. But yeah, I think honestly G2 is not as good as Fnatic, or at least the last 2 weeks. Fnatic is like above everyone else right now, and they were like more comparable to us. And I think our styles are also pretty similar, and that's why the games look like this, where there's just perma fighting. And on that day, we just were the better team. And yeah, anyone could win that series. So maybe next time it will be different.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, anyone can beat any team at any point, but this was one of the biggest upsets in the LEC here, and we'll see what you guys can do against them in the game to come. But I'm wondering, you came into the LEC as a rookie last year, and you grew up since then. So do you think Humanoid from 2020 is stronger than Humanoid from 2019?
Yeah, for sure. I think I wasn't really that experienced last year, and yeah, I was just playing regional leagues like most people who come into the LEC, which is really different from this. So yeah, I think I've improved a lot, especially from playing at Worlds against like other regions as well. And yeah, I feel like I'm no longer a rookie. I feel like I'm kind of a veteran right now.
Yeah, a veteran facing one of the strongest EU mids. You were facing Caps last year, and now it's PERKZ back on the mid lane again. So tell me a bit about the matchup between you two.
I think PERKZ is probably the best in EU. Actually, I think he's like the only one that I actually have fun playing against, because I think others are just basically either don't really do anything or just like play with no brain, I would say. But yeah, I think PERKZ basically has both. Like he plays aggressive and he also plays with brain, whereas most of the players either play too passive or just play only aggressive, right? And yeah, so that's why I'm looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah, he challenges you, and I hope you can challenge him back during the upcoming series tomorrow. Thank you very much, Humanoid, for the interview. Good luck against G2 again.
Thank you.
And back to you.
Thank you very much, Laure. Nice to hear from Humanoid there. He said at the beginning of the interview he's not too sure how they beat him. That's always good. But it's been impressive to see his development with this crew throughout this split and also last year for Humanoid. With the rookies, huge stakes in this matchup for him and his team. Can they complete that upset once again? Can they beat G2 and keep a G2 off a title fight with Fnatic is the question.
Well, frankly, the fearless Mad Lions should have a bit of the pressure lifted off of their shoulders. They've already proven that they can take down G2, not just in the regular split, but then also in a best of 5. And frankly, like, they've already kind of completed their victory lap. No one expected them to be here, whereas G2 on the other side are not only facing the team in front of them, they're facing the audience behind them. The fact of the matter is that G2 were embarrassed by the Mad Lions, and unless they absolutely dominate them today, even if they win, if it's not convincing, you then look at the 3-0 that Fnatic had over Mad Lions versus the struggle that G2 have, and you say, I think Fnatic are the heavy favorites here.
And when we look back at the last time that these two played, a lot of what happened was G2 just individually underperforming. We know that a lot of blame went onto Caps' shoulders, but it wasn't just the Caps problem. Don't get me wrong, he was part of the problem. Like, you can see on your screen right now that Caps did not have the best series of his life, but the entirety of G2 overall was making a lot of mistakes that we don't typically see from them. Trying to push in side lanes when they didn't have full control over that side of the map. Trying to go for these 1v1s that they weren't in a position to go for. And we saw so many of these mistakes consistently getting punished over and over again by Mad Lions that led to a lot of situations that could have been very favorable for G2, but ultimately ended up going in favor of Mad Lions.
And Vedius, you and I have had this discussion probably a million times in rehearsal. We've been trying to figure out the best way to broach it, but it's this idea that in the rulebook and formula of League of Legends, and kind of this must happen before this happens and this happens, you kind of know how a game will play out. And a team like G2 will just always kind of gut check you. We call it a skill check. They'll just make sure that you're paying attention, that you're doing what you're supposed to do. But this G2, when they went for the skill check on Mad Lions, they weren't able to execute on that. They would try things like diving in front of Mad Lions, and when Mad Lions matched them, G2 just messed it up, and the Mad Lions ran away with the game.
Is it fair to say that we are used to seeing this from G2? They're always doing that skill check and limit testing, like we sometimes call it, but just playing on the edge because they are just such good players individually that usually they get the advantage off of that. So what is this? Is this the first time that someone called their bluff, or is this the first time that someone was playing as good as them? What was the deal?
I think that, honestly, it was just G2 playing badly, because when you contrast it to their series against Origin, we saw quite a different story, where G2 was setting up these 3v3 dives in the bot lane. Xerxes could see it happening, yet they made the dive happen anyway. And even though the play didn't result in their favor, they came back again and again and again and again. And it felt like that they were much more aligned with what they wanted to do. But against Mad, these mistakes, it felt like that the team wasn't on the same page. When one person died, there wasn't something they could do elsewhere on the map. And it was basically just a lot of individuals trying to play for themselves almost and consistently getting punished for it.
And one of the things that Mad Lions do so well that I know that you really love, Vedius, is how they use their teleports. And so when you have a skirmish collapse style that the Mad Lions were playing against G2, where G2 go to skill check them, where they go to limit test, and then suddenly Mad Lions have a numbers advantage there because they're running comps like having teleport on Maokai, teleport on Orn mid, teleport on Aphelios, and then also running a Tahm Kench. They're cheating around tempo on the map and getting those rotations faster, that when G2 go aggressive, Mad Lions have numbers to punish.
Exactly that, and I think one of the great things about TP is it basically just allows you to respond to the aggressive nature that G2 bring in every single game that they play as. Because we've been talking a lot, G2 like to skill check you. They like to go for these 3v3s and believe that you are not ready to take them. But what happens if Mad Lions suddenly turn it into a 4v3 or a 5v3? Well, all of a sudden, that fight isn't going to go in your favor regardless of how good you are. And I think that Mad recognized this coming into the series, and as Frost saying, they consistently drafted in a way where they could constantly rely on these teleports to catch G2 out of position. And I think it's something that they tried to do against Fnatic. It wasn't quite as successful, but it's clearly a style of play that they have consistently practiced, and I expect them to bring it out again today in the rematch against G2.
Can you imagine someone struggling to out-teleport Fnatic?
That's very true. That is very true.
What is admirable about that whole thing is the fact that you can make a plan with your coaching staff. You can get the right draft on the board, but if you don't perform and execute the way you should in the game and react in those split-second moments, you're not going to win those games either. And I think that's why Mad specifically deserves so much praise for pulling out that best of 5 versus G2. And it wasn't all the team effort and the prep asset. It was the individuals showing up on the day, notably their jungler, Shadow. He's had some highlight moments throughout the split, but man, did he have a fantastic best of 5 versus G2 2 weeks ago.
My favorite play of his was when he was in the mid lane and he was able to catch Caps out. Caps thought he was fine, he was just farming away, he has a Thresh Lantern behind him, and then Shadow gets this unbelievable insect kickoff that's able to catch Caps, turn it into a Baron, suddenly the game is theirs. He didn't just have that performance though, the entire series I felt was a masterclass performance from Shadow, and I think that he was a large part of why they were able to take down G2 last week.
Which is also then why I think when you look at their series against Fnatic, it becomes clear kind of the blueprint to disrupt Mad, and it starts with disrupting Shadow. Shadow works exceptionally well when he's left to his own devices and he's just hard ganking lanes, and you get to see some of the execution on his Lee Sin with how incredible his mechanics can be on that champion. But if you get in his face, if you push him in the jungle and you force him to kind of think critically about the pathing of what he's doing, he's not that type of jungler, and that's where some of that inexperience for how new he is to the role, for how new he is to the stage, really start to show up.
Yeah, we'll go a bit deeper into that jungle matchup of Jankos versus Shadow in a little bit, but when we take a step back and look at the Mad Lions, and both the team that is on stage or now at home, of course, in front of the computer, and the whole support staff after it, and how new everyone is to working with this iteration together, you just gotta give them praise for how far they've got. And I don't want to hear the whole, well, yeah, they've already won. No, I want to see them fight today and put up a real fight versus this G2 that is pining after that other title.
I think it's setting us up for a really competitive series today. Mad clearly have the formula to take down G2. They also know how to replicate that. It's a question of how much adaptation can G2 make to fix the issues that they had in their last series. But on top of that, it's not like Mad is just going to roll over and die. They're going to grow as well. They're going to adapt as well. They're going to learn from that 3-0 that they had against Fnatic, and you know they're going to be a better Mad Lions today. And I think that hopefully we're going to see two teams elevating on their failures from this playoff so far in what could be a very, very competitive best of 5.
And that's all I want. I do not want a series where one team plays bad and the other team plays well. I want a series where both teams play well and one team plays better, because that is the best League of Legends.
All right, then let's look at, if we assume, hopefully, that both of these teams have done their homework and they're going to perform to the best of their abilities at this point in time today. What are our expectations respectively for G2 and Mad Lions?
Well, in terms of best performance?
If they show up on the day and are both playing their best game.
Okay, I understand. I mean, I think that any betting man would then say that G2 is who you're always going to back, and I think it's because G2 and Fnatic are Trident-style teams where Mad Lions is not. And what I mean by that is that G2 can beat you in every single lane. They can hard carry through Wunder, they can hard carry through PERKZ, and they can show that they can hard carry even through Caps, as he got the MVP in the Origin series. Whereas the Mad Lions can only carry through 2 lanes. Humanoid can pop off, Carzzy and Kaiser are godlike, and we've seen Shadow have a great Olaf performance, but Orome is still a weak side top laner. Now in this current meta, that can be protected. He can be thrown on things like the Ornn, on the Maokai, he can take the Bruiser matchups on the Aatrox, but when he does do Bruiser v Bruiser, that's when you start to see the gap really opening up between him and Bwipo and Wunder. So that's my concern and why I'm never going to say the numbers game is on the Mad Lions side.
But I do think that when we look at what Mad Lions can do coming into today's series, we heard it from Carzzy earlier in Ready Check saying that he thinks that there is a gap between the bot laners. He thinks that the weakness of G2 is Caps and Mikyx, and you can attack it. So that is one strategy that they can look to bring into today's series. And I think that trying to put Shadow on something that he can have impact on, and ideally getting a strong mid-jungle duo, I think is the best way for Mad to find success. Because we know that G2 love playing Jankos, PERKZ, strong 2v2, move that pressure around the map in its entirety. We've seen it pretty much the entirety of the last 2 weeks and pretty much the entire regular season from G2. So taking that away from them, I think, is one way in which Mad Lions can look to usurp and challenge G2 once again.
I'm actually really curious what PERKZ is going to do, because the last series, PERKZ didn't take the teleport. He got the counter pick, they played red side multiple times, he would take combat summoners, the heal, the exhaust, and the ignites, and he would just try to keep Humanoid locked down under the lane. But when Humanoid's playing something like on Nautilus, it doesn't really matter if he's locked down in lane, because as soon as a fight happened in River, he had more utility on his kit to make the difference, or he would teleport out into a side lane. Is PERKZ going to choose the same thing, like you're saying in that 2v2 mid-jungle struggle? Is he going to take the combat summoner and really just have kill pressure on Humanoid, try to keep him down, or will PERKZ actually grab the teleport and try to kick out into a side lane faster, fight for roam power?
Yeah, we'll also see if maybe PERKZ shifts his champion pool a little bit after what we saw of Humanoid with the tanky mid laners in that first best of 5. And these are just some of the questions, right? And there's so many questions around how this is going to play out because it was so turned on its head in this previous best of 5. If you think about the attitude that both teams are going to come in to this first game with and then eventually the series, will it be similar in the aggression that we saw last time where both are willing to go toe-to-toe? Or would that be dangerous for either side knowing what happened last time?
Shocks, there's one thing that I can promise you, and that blood will be gifted to the blood god today. There will be nothing but aggression and violence between these two teams because, you know, we talked a lot about them, but when you just look at some of the key players, Jankos and Shadow, like, their styles in nature is that of aggression. They like to gank. They like to get in your face. And while Jankos likes to think a little bit more, I'll use Humanoid's words, he's a little bit more of a brain and brawling kind of jungler. I feel like Shadow is much more of the brawling kind, where he just wants to gank actively. He wants to set up his lanes for success. And I feel like that because of that, you're just setting up for both teams looking to fight. So I expect a lot of action once again in today's best of 5.
I guess you're inclined to say, you know, it's always more risky, especially for the Mad Lions, because if G2 has learned their lesson, it's going to be a much tougher mountain for the Mad Lions to climb. But on the other hand, you have that idea of, well, you know, as said, the Mad Lions, they got this far already. They can play without pressure. They know that everything they do here today will be regarded positively, especially if they go in and just try and go toe-to-toe with G2. G2 has this huge weight on their shoulders of, oh my god, are we going to lose to this team again? Are we going to lose a chance to defend our title?
It's playing with the nameplates off. We call the Mad Lions fearless, and it's because they don't care who they're facing against. They will try to play to your level. They'll go blow for blow with you, which is why it's so easy to be a Mad Lions fan and to get behind the team, because they play such exciting League of Legends.
Yeah. On that note, we will see what Jankos has to say, because we talked a lot about Shadow, but if I know Jankos, I think that he's not going to let that happen again.
Last time I played against Mad Lions, I was just not unsure of what is my job in the game, even though it sounds funny because I'm so experienced and I should be like better than others. Then I feel like our idea of like playing I feel like sometimes jungle is all about the team in a way, because as a jungler you want to play around your teammates, right? You want to play the way you agreed in scrims, the way you practiced. And I feel like we didn't have like a good clue about how to play the game in a series against Mad Lions, and that is why also I didn't look as good. But I think that right now, after like a few weeks of like watching replays and you know, just thinking about the game a lot and agreeing on how to play the game with my team, I can perform better because I'm very confident in the way we are playing right now, and I'm very confident in what I know, and I just know what my job is better than I used to in the first week of playoffs. So I think that I will perform better and I will be more dominant.
There we go with Jankos up versus Shadow, also feeling a little bit embarrassed about what happened in that best of 5. And I think it's important that we remember kind of what these players showed in the Spring Split and the regular season, because Jankos was far and away the best jungler we had in the LEC for all of those 9 weeks. So you gotta imagine that that is still there, and he's not gonna let Shadow roll over him in this best of 5.
Exactly that, and I think you only have to look at the Origin series to see a little bit more return to form for Jankos. He's definitely an impressive jungler. He's someone that is extremely active on the map, and again, I really love the way in which he works with PERKZ to enable his mid laner, so that then those two as a duo can roam around the map, and then you get the 3-man death squad of Jankos, PERKZ, and Mikyx that so many fans are aware of, where just this trio looks for fights, looks for skirmishes, looks to attack the side lanes, and that is what can be very difficult and oppressive to deal with when playing against the likes of G2.
And on the other side, you kind of have similar attributes when someone looks at Shadow. Shadow is a jungler that will fight you. He'll run straight into you, he'll gank into the lanes. When he's given agency, when he's giving power to impact the map, he makes sure that you can feel it. Now, in the difference between him and Jankos, however, I think that Jankos is a bit more well-rounded in terms of being both kind of the pathing, creative, kind of problem-solving jungler, and that when things go sideways, Jankos can pull it down. Whereas Shadow, for me, is a bit more feast and famine. If he can't really brute force a lot of those ganks, sometimes he just falls away when you kind of look at the holistic tape over the entire split of the LEC. But what we saw in playoffs was above and beyond any performance that I thought imaginable for Shadow.
I completely agree with you, Frosk, and I think that flexibility is the word that we're kind of looking for to describe the difference, because, as you rightly said, when something inhibits or interrupts the game plan from Shadow, when he doesn't have the agency that he so often gets on the Mad Lions, sometimes his impact is much less felt. And for him to evolve as a player, he needs to find that flexibility, but that might not matter if he's just able to pull off all of his ganks all the time, which so far in playoffs he's been successfully able to do. And even in that 3-0 against Fnatic, Game 2 in particular, he was obliterating Fnatic in the early game. So if you give this man an inch, he will take the mile.
Yes, he will. We'll see how that jungle matchup plays out, and we'll see if it's a win condition for Mad Lions or G2 Esports. But we have to talk about the bot lanes, because I think it's been the most discussed thing about... that sounded like disgusting, or maybe it was a kind of disgusting the way Caps was out of position at times, and that's just exactly what people have been talking about. And I want to get your definitive opinion from the both of you as to how you think this bot lane matchup will influence the match, and if the Mad Lions have a win condition with Carzzy and Kaiser in the bot lane.
Are we gonna fight again? No, we're not gonna fight again. Okay, here's 2 points. One, because we just talked about Shadow and then how it relates into the bot lane, I think it's so important for Mad Lions to have a winning bot lane, or a bot lane that can set up kills, usually with pairing him with Kaiser. It doesn't have to be necessarily going down into the bot lane, but fighting a bot lane river, because Shadow is a jungler, again, that's kind of feast and famine, do the ganks work, am I getting kill access? So he needs to make sure that he has a lane to play through, and it's usually Mad Lions bot lane. The second part of that, I do not think that there is the definitive difference that most fans seem to think, that Carzzy, Kaiser are better than Mikyx and Caps. I still think that Mikyx and Caps are the superior bot lane. Probably the most controversial opinion, but I'm gonna throw that one out there.
I think where Frosk and I have had a lot of debates behind the scenes is because when she brings that statement up, a lot of people are going to look at the playoff performance so far and say, how can you make that argument? And I think that Frosk would agree that in light of what we've seen of playoffs so far, I think it's fair to say that Carzzy and Kaiser have performed at a higher level. But if you were to take both bot lanes and look at them at their highest potential level, would you still say for certain that Carzzy and Kaiser would be the strongest 2v2? And that's where I think Frosk falls on the line of Caps and Mikyx. And for me, I am more on the line of Carzzy and Kaiser, because I think we're only seeing the tip of their unlocked potential, and I think that the more time that they have will only further enhance them. And I think that right now they are currently playing better. So in terms of the straight up 2v2, I have my eyes on the Mad Lions bot lane having the advantage coming into this series.
Yeah, and the reality of the situation is you could be at a certain level if you play your best, but it doesn't matter if you don't show it on the Rift when it matters most, right? And you're only as good as the last game you played, and that is why the stakes are just so incredibly high for everyone involved in this best of 5 today. So, moment of truth then. Will the Mad Lions replicate that upset? Is any of you two willing to predict that they can do it, or is it G2 all the way?
Now, I will say that while I think Mad Lions have the potential to do it, I do not think that they will. I believe that G2 is one of the best teams at recognizing and fixing their problems. And this is where they get the benefit of the doubt of what happened last year. Is this the same roster as last year? No. Is it the same level of success or quality? No. But they still have the same players that identify where things go wrong, and they're just so good at adapting and fixing them. And I think we started to see that in their series against Origin, and I expect to see it twice-fold in their series today against Mad. So I'm predicting 3-1 for G2.
I'm also, unfortunately, predicting a 3-1 for G2, and I'm very, I know, right? Because everyone wants, like, the spicy, like, Mad Lions can do it. I honestly do believe that 2 things happened. Mad had the series of their lives. That should never be taken away from them. They played phenomenally well. They are a great team. But G2, and you're lying if you disagree with this, had a terrible series individually. You saw very uncharacteristic G2 mistakes that normally aren't punished because they do execute on the play. You can say whatever you want about G2's macro. Sometimes they do just go for the boosted play that you're like, why are you doing this, guys? We're inting. But that's not... They don't usually just like miss all of their buttons and die. So today, I want to see G2 execute, and I want to see the exact same performance that we saw from Mad Lions. I want 2 teams to play good League of Legends, but I know in my heart that if it's both teams playing at their highest level, that G2 will play better League of Legends.
Well, the people on Twitter agreed with you both. 70% of the Twitter votes went to G2, and I think that's just a testament to the pedigree of this G2 esports roster. The fact that you're not willing to ever bet against them. But the Mad Lions are comfortable in that position. They say, you can undervalue us. We will still show up on the day. And G2, they have a score to settle in this series if they want to make it to the final, where Mad Lions are looking for the upset once again. Let's see who of these two teams gets a shot at fighting Fnatic, fighting for the title tomorrow.
Fnatic are the kings of the West, and they will represent in the World Final.
I've been sad in the middle, got told it hurts a little.
Fnatic topple G2 and are your Spring Split champions.
Down that road I've been running all my life, now I'm suddenly
only FLICKR is left alive to look as his team crumbles.
RNG are done! All 3 European teams make it to the knockout stage. Fnatic eliminate RNG!
And now the push comes in. Humanoid goes back in.
They've done it!
Nice and done it. 2-0 on the day.
Oh, Carzzy! Looking to style on it. They're going to try to pull him back in the fountain. They want to finish this last. Suplex back. That is the price of greed.
Right now, as they go in onto Caps.
So nicely done from Shadow!
taking shape.
Let's see whether or not this will find out. PERKZ blows up RNG!
We're taking shape.
This is what peak League of Legends looks like, and it comes from Europe. A world record. G2 Esports 3-0 will win MSI 2019.
You and me are not so crazy.
Origin are crumbling to G2. Europe yields to its champion, G2 Esports.
They take it. G2 are your champions.
Taking shape. We're taking shape.
Wunder's in the pit with 3 members of Origin, but Wunder has already got the kill on Destiny. Upset, no flash. No way out of this as Caps jumps forward, and G2 have found the fight in the river that they were looking for.
You and me are not so crazy.
He's got the shot down, and now Destiny's getting chased off towards the bottom side. Carzzy opens up with a haymaker teleport coming in for the win, and G2 looks like close this one out.
Chasing, we're chasing, we're taking shape.
Carzzy hops over the wall. He's looking for Mikyx. Sidesteps the cocoon of the Death Sentence. Manages to get the Arcane Ship onto the target and takes out 2. Shadow, he's going to be taking so much damage. But look, he's still not down. He's going to chase work with. They've done it. Mad Lions have defeated G2.
Oh no.
Oh, the emote! I'm sorry, if you're tired of me getting excited about emotes, I get it. That's a double kill coming through for Selfmade. Gonna give one more over to a triple for the Gragas. He's gonna look for a little bit more, and that's going to be a quadra for the Gragas.
It has been a long, exciting, and interesting journey, but the day is finally upon us. Get ready, everybody. Rookies and veterans, villains and heroes. The LEC 2020 Spring Finals start right now.
We're taking shape.
And hello, all you cool cats and kittens. I'm Quickshot, joined by Ender to bring you the LEC semi-final between the Mad Lions and G2 Esports. This is a hell of a rematch. And Ender, Mad Lions had side selection. They came from the winners final. G2 Esports and Mad, they've both played 2 series already in playoffs, but this is now do or die. And I'm honestly so excited to see how these teams perform. I mean, Mad Lions, yes, we have player cameras. The team huddle from the gaming houses. I don't think it's going to get much better.
No, I love it. You know, these two teams had such a locked and close series 2 weeks ago, everyone came into that series thinking it was going to be a big one-way stomp, but Mad Lions rose up on the occasion and proved so many people wrong. So coming into today, a lot of people are trying to figure out, like, how do we balance these two teams? How do you rate G2 versus Mad Lions? But one thing I know for sure is that Mad Lions came in to their last face-off with a serious plan. They came in with a very clear identity. Their bans, their picks stayed very similar throughout the series, whereas G2 was sort of scrambling all over the place. So Mad Lions, I feel like today, have a very telegraphed look coming into the draft that, honestly, G2 are going to have to be able to shut down.
Tell me some specifics, right? So what would you predict, knowing Mad Lions' tendencies, what we've seen from G2 already, what are going to happen as we load into drafts?
So here's the thing, right? Mad Lions chose red side for game 1, which they chose every single time they had selection in the round 1 fight as well.
They chose red today.
And they chose red today. It's going to be Pantheon, Senna, Thresh. It almost has to be. When they left the Thresh open, Mikyx locked that one in and absolutely smashed with it. So this is a situation where Mad Lions had these 3 telegraphed bans, whereas G2 were sort of, throwing around these individual target bans, and it didn't quite work up against them. So Mad Lions gonna stick with the Pantheon, Senna, Thresh, I have to believe, and then go for an early lock-in on the bot lane 2v2.
Oh my word, Ender, you've got the Pantheon already. You've got the Senna already, banned from Mad Lions. On the other side, I like seeing the Gragas and the Aphelios taken off the table, as well as the Syndra, so that'll remove some of the comfort. The last prediction that you made was going to be the Thresh. I want to see whether or not Mad Lions have made any changes. Our analyst desk was talking about how both of these teams have needed to grow, have needed to adapt. There's 10 seconds left. I really want this to be Thresh.
Yeah, so this is interesting. The Kalista has to come in here because Kalista was the power pick that rose up, but we'd never seen the double AD or bot lane bans with the Syndra plus Aphelios thrown around from G2 before. So now all 3 of these options are off the board, and G2 have picked the Yuumi, which screams to me it's a Caps Ezreal performance. Now, Mad Lions did play Ezreal once in that series, but they didn't prioritize it in their first 2 picks. But I feel like if you see a Yuumi over there, either you're trying to steal away the Ezreal or lock in something that can punish in the 2v2.
Yeah, you're going to force the hand. You do not want to give away Ezreal Yuumi. And of course, Ender, you did say that early priority for Mad Lions was to lock in the duos. Knowing there's a support already in, knowing you've denied that Ezreal, you have to think that Kaiser will want to lock in a support pick now. Makes me think a little bit about like champion pool. I think with Gragas being banned and then Lee Sin still being open and available, that's something that I wouldn't want to give to Shadow, so that could be another consideration for them. And instead, it's going to be that support that you talked about. So it's Ezreal, Leona already.
Yeah, this makes so much sense here to go for the Leona and try to punish Yuumi whenever she pops out of her ally here. You're going to be looking to jump on forward there. And with an Ezreal too, he actually delivers some considerable damage in those early skirmishes, especially when you see people going for the early Sheen recalls early on. But there you go, that's going to be the Lee Sin steal away now, putting it into the hands of Jankos, because I can guarantee you, had Jankos not locked that in, Shadow was going to play the Lee Sin 100%.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, this is the 3rd time that Shadow, Kaiser has played the Leona. He's won 1 and lost 1. In terms of most played champions for Shadow, Lee Sin, 9 games, Gragas, 5 games, and then his next is Olaf at 5. But is this really going to be LeBlanc into Azir? So what do you think of this matchup?
So here's the thing with the LeBlanc pick, is that last time these 2 teams faced off, G2 banned the LeBlanc in the first 3 games, but then when they left it open, Humanoid was like, nah, I don't need it, I can beat you with other stuff. But now, with the Azir locked in early, Humanoid picks this one. So G2 had to have seen this coming, because when Humanoid sees an Azir, it's very likely going to be the LeBlanc to look to try and punish with an aggressive jungler next to it. So now we're looking at jungle bans. Could it be an Olaf removed from Shadow that he got 15 kills against G2 last time? It's going to be the Rek'Sai too, so get rid of the mid lane jungle power 2v2s that Shadow could look to lock in here.
Yeah, I mean, his scoreline was 16-2-5 in Game 5 of that series. Also, interesting side note, as you know, I love my useless stats, Mr. Frierson.
They're not useless, they're quick.
The 17th unique champion that PERKZ has played this split, and the first time that he has played Azir in the 2020 season. So, I love seeing that, seeing the amount of diversity, but I want to see what performance it'll put on the Rift today. Rek'Sai has been banned from G2. They have not yet banned that Olaf. And it is Aatrox and Misfortune removed from the pool for Mad Lions. So you have to feel probably jungle pick in this next phase for Mad and save top lane for a potential counter.
Yeah, that's usually what they end up going for. We actually, even when Mad Lions have been on red side, they don't always use it for like solo lane picks because often Humanoid will have to lock in a mid laner early on. But with Orome in the roster here, you have to figure since his top lane pick hasn't been shown yet, you can secure him a good matchup. So that's the Olaf that we were talking about. This is a champion that Shadow, when he had the 16 kill Olaf game, I want to remind you, it wasn't like he just ran over G2 early on. It wasn't like insane ganks coming in from him. It was in every single fight that Mad Lions took against G2, Shadow just ran straight at the G2 backline and farmed so many kills, so he was an absolute monster in that game.
Yeah, he was, and also no ways. Oh, a Vayne? Okay, holy moly. So, I actually completely forgot to ask, like, what AD is going to be paired with Yuumi, but I can't think of a more terrifying duo. Like, you will never be able to escape Vayne.
Yeah, no, Vayne's going to be super fast too. Not just, you know, when she activates the ult, gets all the movement speed running down at her targets here, but with a Yuumi on top of her as well. That can be a really interesting one. Now, I don't think her laning power is going to be super high, but of course, with a ranged Enchanter support next to her, you can try to bolster that up just a little bit. And later in the game, when you see an Olaf running at you, having the invisibility, having the ability to kite around a bit, even if your Condemn isn't going to be super effective against him when he's ulted up, that does give you very strong, you know, play around that Olaf type of option.
Oh man, okay, when we get to the video, I want to look up Caps's Vayne stats. Before that though, let's zoom out. You've talked about the side lane play and how the Vayne into the Olaf has some tools. Let's talk about the team comps as a whole. 5v5s, what do you make?
Yeah, so 5v5s are super interesting because neither team has like the clear identified front-to-back team fight. I think G2 are going to go into the mid to late game team fights with a really bolstered up backline with the Azir and the Vayne. They have very high DPS and a set to sort of just run down their opposition, whereas Mad Lions, they have good long-range engage tools with the Gangplank ultimate, the Leona ultimate. They can try to find picks, and leading into those fights, they want to put down Poke with the LeBlanc and the Ezreal to make sure the 5v5s go their way.
Right, poke from afar, long-range engage. This is fun. I mean, Vedius had a very strong line on ReadyCheck where he was saying, you can expect blood. This should be an action-packed series, and I like the comps that we've already drafted. Kaiser on the Leona is going to be so much fun to watch. This is the first game, and there's so much on the line. The fact that Mad Lions have already beaten G2 in a 5-game series, it just builds up a lot of expectation for how well they're going to perform today. I'm obviously trying to buy a little bit of time as I'm expecting the video to come in just a moment or two. But let's see who's going to show up. Of course, G2 Esports, they have had a lot of time to change. I think last weekend, I talked a little and said if you turned off nameplates and you were to show the G2 Mad series and the G2 OG series, you would not think it's the same team.
No, absolutely not. G2 definitely spun things around coming into that week, and they're spinning things around one more time here against Mad. Very different looking draft in game number 1. This is going to be a series that people remember for a long time. I hope it's going to be fast. I hope it's going to be bloody. I hope it's going to be good.
I hope so too. G2 versus Mad Lions. And welcome to Summoner's Rift, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. It is Mad Lions taking on G2 Esports. I did some digging while I had some time. This is the second time that Caps has played Vayne. The last time he did it was in the 2018 Summer Playoffs. He won that game 5-2-6. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. Now, you mentioned it already, not the strongest laning presence, and especially with the Yuumi, they need a little bit of time. We had a lot of discussion in our prep leading up to this week around how Shadow and Jankos in particular were the central figures in a lot of our discussions for when G2 Mad played last time. Jankos even said it in the interview. He was like, jungling is about a team game, understanding where we move, why we move, what we want to do. So Ender, what do we need to look at in terms of this Lee Sin versus Olaf matchup and expectations on the players?
Yeah, honestly, the Jankos Shadow matchup is, I think, the one that is going to best define the outcome of this series. And it goes past champion picks. It sort of transcends that because you have two players with very distinct styles coming into this game. On one hand, you have Jankos, you know, unquestionably the best jungler in Europe that rarely ever gets challenged in the pace of, you know, how often the enemy jungler is ganking, do they get in his face, all these things. He just sort of walks into every single matchup with a little bit of swagger and dominates his opposition. But Shadow is the type of guy that tries to download you before the game. He knows exactly how long you're going to take on your first clear. He knows all these timers, and usually his setup is to come and try and attack you in your jungle. We've seen those crazy level 3 invades where he sits in brush inside your jungle for 15 seconds and then gets the solo kill. We've seen that. We've seen the level 2 ganks. We've seen all of it. But Jankos is the type of player that won't just let that happen to him. And in a lot of those games in the last series, when these two teams faced off, he often tried to get into the enemy jungle and disrupt Shadow's early game plan. Now, in a game like this, it's the Olaf, so it is just going to be a full clear here for Shadow, but this is the type of thing we're going to have to continue tracking later on in the series, because when Shadow looks for his early moves, if it isn't disrupted at all, he's going to have a field day in the jungle.
And I guess theoretically speaking, and there's been no disruption to his plan yet. Like when you see the matchup, when you see the comps, so what does this mean going forward? Kaiser does manage to connect to that Zenith Blade. Actually ends up coming a little worse for wear in that trade. Mikyx still got a lot of mana to play with. Will be able to heal up Caps over time, and this wave pushing, not a big surprise. Similarly, PERKZ and Wunder shoving in mid and top respectively. We're seeing the early phases of the game play out as anticipated. If you would have put on your prediction hat. Let's look forward. Kaiser,
there's a gank coming in.
And Carzzy, the exhaust comes down, condemn into the wall, could be very valuable. I haven't seen if it's been used yet. That's a tumble forward. Flash, no. Level 3 not achieved yet. Now Mikyx is going to keep chasing forward. It's a double kill to the Vayne. I hadn't noticed there was no condemn available as Caps was only level 2, but Humanoid's trying to put some pressure on PERKZ. He's got a Knight available. Is there enough cooldowns? And the answer is no. GG go next. Double kill Vayne?
I mean, it's looking grim down there in the bot lane. G2 opened game 1 in this series with a statement right there. Jankos being able to find the move down towards the bot side. There just wasn't the vision there to enable Carzzy and Kaiser to push on up. So a very nice move by him to get down bot side. Now there's no summoner spells left at all in the bottom lane. There is going to be a huge target down here for junglers, for top lane teleport plays, for all of it. We'll watch this one more time because both bot lanes level 2. The lane froze in a perfect position here where Carzzy has to overextend to go for the last hit, and there's not much you can do. Even as Ezu with a flash and a dash, when you're that far down the lane, you are just going to be chased down.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the synchronized emotes as well. True teamwork on the side of G2. As we watch this play around the top, I want to ask a question around Carzzy and Kaiser being that pushed forward, full clears on both sides. Like, is that a good play from Jankos, or is that, poor setup on Carzzy and Kaiser's side?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Okay. Because Carzzy and Kaiser knew that Shadow was doing a full clear, pathing from the bot side of his jungle to the top side, so they didn't have any support. So they either needed to look for the full bounce on the third wave right there and keep it a little bit more central inside the lane for added safety, or go for an early ward. And you can really tell this because if you take the inverse and see what were G2's solo laners doing during that time when they knew their jungler was bot side, well, PERKZ and Wunder had both stepped forward to put a ward sort of inside of Shadow's topside jungle, so they were going to be 100% safe. That's why Shadow could only look to try and walk in and steal away a blue buff, and even that he wasn't successful for. So it was just a little bit of a team difference right there, and Kaiser and Carzzy got punished.
They did indeed. Now Caps and Mikyx are being jumped on. The tumble is going to allow them to escape. One other thing that I want to just point out is the fact that Caps as well as Mikyx, the fact that they've got that exhaust in the bottom lane, not only was it valuable for the kill, but also if at any point Shadow decides to start chasing him down or a humanoid flank jumps in his face, that exhaust could prove hugely valuable in the mid to late stages of the game.
No, absolutely, right? And Caps is also going to be able to rock the cleanse for himself, so he doesn't need to build a QSS later on or anything like that. He's going to be very fine with that one right there. And as soon as he gets that Blade of the Ruined King, like, he becomes such a threat. Vayne's one of those AD carries that loves to go into a side lane, so you can just leave Caps to his own devices in the middle stages of the game. PERKZ would love to set up down towards mid because Caps is going to be fine against a lot of the things that Mad Lions are going to be throwing his way.
Yeah, 6 minutes in, and right now, Caps just marginally behind on CS. Big wave in front of him. We've seen Shadow lingering for a moment or two. And while we've just got a quick respite, I want to just draw attention to Jankos again, because a lot of question marks were thrown up around Jankos' play in the opening series against Mad Lions. If you compare his regular season stats to playoffs, kills plus assists at 15, the reason it looks close is because of how dominant Jankos was against Origin. More than double the average deaths of 15. Goal difference negative as opposed to positive. Jankos was one of the let's say, biggest offenders of being outplayed. And it's a combination of him not showing up, but also a lot of credit to Shadow for being ready for what Jankos was going to do.
Yeah, Mike, I think the problem was that he did show up. He showed up to too many things. Jankos was super greedy in that series, and the whole best of 5 was almost defined by people being over-aggressive from both teams, right? And Jankos did it more often than others in that series, and that's why his death numbers were so high. But it's really because both teams, all 10 players, are super, super confident in their ability to jump forward, in their ability to outplay, and we may be gearing up for another move around the bot side as Shadow pops on over the wall, but Jankos is lying in wait.
Yeah, I think Shadow may have just become visible. I didn't see on the observer side. We'll toggle back to God Mode Vision in a moment, and he does back away. And the reason we are doing a lot of focus on these two players is Shadow and the Mad Lions. Oh, all that thought is Humanoid does a lot of damage onto PERKZ. Flash still available for PERKZ, and Humanoid used his ulti, so didn't want to chase any further. But now the kill threat is up. He's got that blasting one, the corrupting potion, and the gold. Still 1,000 difference between the two teams. But all of our focus has been on the bottom lane because honestly, everybody keeps showing up there.
Yeah, right now, Shadow using that bot lane pressure to be able to walk in and try to take this Infernal Drake. Jankos does know what's going on, but because PERKZ just went back to base and doesn't have the teleport, it can only be a steal attempt.
And he's gonna do it! He's done it! He gets the Infernal Drake! Doesn't manage to get out, but I think probably worth in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, so long-term worth, short-term pain for Caps down bot side, but again, Caps already has 2 kills, so when you look at that matchup, it's still going to be very comfortable for him. So G2 are going to say, yeah, perfect, we'll take that objective, no problem whatsoever, and that's just really unfortunate for Mad Lions now, whose entire play got thwarted. They were supposed to take the Infernal Drake, now make the swap to top side where they can look for a gank, look for the Rift Herald, everything, where they can get all the objectives. Well, now they're going to be running up top side without that kind of a luxury with the objective behind them. So they're going to try to blitz this one down. It does look like they are giving away their information, but Caps and Mikyx cannot get over here quickly enough.
No, they absolutely can't. But let's talk about that top lane matchup, as now we're going to start seeing them shuffle around. Wunder has been shoving into Orome fairly consistently throughout the course of the game. He's got that cull, already farmed up 35 minions. Orome's now used the Cannon Barrage to clear out the wave in the bottom lane, as well as his team picking up the Herald top. But what are we going to see expectation-wise from how Wunder's set and Orome's GP should play out the next 10 to 15 minutes?
Yeah, well, in all honesty, I don't think these two players are going to be matching up against each other really again. Like, they'll pick up waves sometimes in the same lane, but this 1v1 doesn't exist. I think Mad Lions are going to be perfectly happy with that one, where Orome can just farm up on the GP. And in the lane swap situation, GP is super, super powerful because you saw how he is ultimate there, soaked up an entire wave and a half bot side. That means that the tower plates are going to be going down at a very similar pace, while Mad Lions were also able to secure the Rift Herald for themselves. So that champion in its own is able to generate a lot of advantage in this type of a situation, but really Orome is just the type of player for Mad Lions where it's never going to be focused around him winning his lane or dominating. It really is how can he impact the team. The last series they played against G2, it was all about his teleport plays. In this game 1, it's going to be about those cannon barrages.
And we see while Shadow was making his way top to put some pressure on Wunder, he pays respect, sitting way back in the lane. Rift Herald has now cleared out. Tower First Blood picked up to Mad Lions, and they've stolen themselves an 800 gold lead. They got that kill, obviously, in the Dragon Pit. They got a bunch of plates in that tower. And Wunder is a little bit at risk of being jumped on here. Kaiser Solar Flare is available, but Jankos was relatively close, and Mad Lions decide against it. Kaiser's got those boots of mobility already picked up, and I'm just such a fan of Leona's. I love seeing the play pattern. I love seeing the potential engages, especially when we combine it with an Olaf, with an LeBlanc. I think there's going to be some pressure on Kaiser to help set up his team, as Humanoid gets smacked in the face by Sand Soldier a few times. That Sting has already been picked up by PERKZ in the mid lane.
Yeah, this game is already looking to be way less explosive than the series between G2 and Mad last time, but that's not without Mad Lions looking for plays themselves. It's just G2 have been showing a lot more respect this time around, not running into a fight around the Rift Herald, instead saying, hey, we actually would prefer to have more time to get the Azir items that are better than Mercury Treads, finish off the Blade of the Ruined King and all this for the Vayne as well. So they decided to trade some pressure. That means they do lose the first tower, and Mad Lions do have a small but meaningful gold advantage at the moment, even after those early plays did go poorly for them. But Mad Lions, I can't help but feel like, are going to struggle a little bit later on when it comes to the team fights and actually finding their proper setup, because their fights are a little bit wonky. It's not the most obvious front-to-back team fight like I think you're going to see from the side of G2. Instead, you are going to be looking to split up the fight and look for like almost mini skirmishes where Ezreal can just be hitting one target, dashing around with the arcane shift, landing his Qs, where Shadow can be sprinting at a Caps or a PERKZ and really denying them the ability to lay down damage in fights. That's how they have to think about how they can drive a wedge in the middle of G2's 5v5 and split them into the smaller pieces.
I'm so happy to see the opening of this game. You know, a lot of fans, analysts, obviously expecting G2 to be the heavy favorites, much like they were last time. And this is, I think, was a fairly obvious bait, as now Jankos has arrived. The chapter has been thrown down and Kaiser's been locked up. He's still got flash available. Cannon Barrage was used as well, so a number of ultimates. But Jankos and Shadow, they are on the same side of the map very, very often. And right now, nobody dies in that play. Mad Lions, they've not given up control of the jungle. And this is a 5-man stack. This is a 5-man dive. If the Zenith Blade connects, somebody will die. Jankos, Caps, and of course Mikyx flying on Caps. They've been able to escape for now.
Yeah, as soon as the wave starts diminishing and a couple of Mad Lions players start backing up, here we go for the fight though, teleport in from Wunder.
You can't get away with the Vayne passive as well as the Yuumi slows. That's a flash forward from Caps. He continues to chase down. That's not going to be enough to stun Carzzy, as now Mad Lions are full on retreating. The Emperor's Divide holds Carzzy in place, and the teleport nets them 2 quick kills.
Yeah, Mad Lions just got baited right there so hard. G2 was like letting them have their time. It's like, oh yeah, don't worry, you can control the entire jungle. But as soon as Humanoid walked back into mid lane, Wunder pulled the trigger. Caps dove in there with that Vayne Yuumi combo, and there was no escape, as you said. Look at it, Caps diving on forward because G2 know they're the ones that can rotate into this fight first. Looks like Jankos even followed Kaiser through the flash there, so was able to get some extra damage, and the silver bolts to finish off the kill on towards Kaiser. Of course, after the flash ultimate to pick off Carzzy, it also turns into the second Drake of the game for G2, because Jankos was able to pick off that steal the first time around.
3-0-1 on Caps' Vayne. He's got a Blade of the Rune King already completed, as well as those Berserker's Greaves. And yes, Mad Lions still hold a gold lead, so it is looking and feeling very G2 favored, but do not discount the Mad Lions. And the story that I was trying to set up was that for the first 15 minutes of gameplay, Mad Lions are still making some plays. They have been maybe not out-executed or outplayed in the skirmishes thus far, but they've got themselves a tower lead. They're still ahead in gold. So, Mad Lions, they just cannot afford to lose some control of this game and allow G2's mid-game to stomp them out in the opening of the series.
Yeah, that's where it's a little bit worrisome for Mad, though, because even though they do have a lead, again, how they pick off their fights is going to be a bit of a worry towards me, as you can see, G2 are just going to be running at people with the set to try and pick them off here. So I think Mad Lions have been doing a good job of, you know, pushing their control into the enemy jungle, but that play down bot side where they get teleported on, where they're not all fully committing towards the play, that worries me, because wait a second, Orome's just walking in. What is he doing?
Oh, I have no idea. We need to see some vision on that. Like, why would he just walk in? I do not understand what just happened.
That just can't happen. It's a semifinals. You're one best of 5 away from going to the finals tomorrow, and you run underneath the tower. Mad Lions making critical mistakes here against G2. Yes, they've been playing the map well as a team, but now they need to buckle down. You cannot give G2 inches, or they will take a mile.
So, okay, wait. So, what is happening here?
So Carzzy is on the way up.
It's too early.
But he's way too far away. Like, this is one of those things that in a VoD review you just say, yeah, I was trolling. There's nothing else you can learn from this other than it was just objectively the wrong decision.
Oh man, thought the support was going to be there quicker than it was. And unfortunately, Orome pays the price. It's his first death of the game, but he gives it to the arguable only player you don't want to give it to. Vayne is now 4-0-1. Another recurve bow picked up, but I'm going to keep drawing your attention. The gold lead and the tower lead is still in favor of Mad Lions, as Wunder should be able to pick up at least the first tower of the game for now. And Mad Lions, they are still trying to really land a blow. They have picked up at least 1 kill, but it was donated. It was when Jankos went to steal the dragon. So what can we see from Mad Lions in this, was the word you used, wonky team comp, to set up some of those picks? They've got themselves a Man Immune, they've got themselves a Luden's Echo, and Humanoid and Kaiser are going to try put some damage down, but this is a very, very fed Caps. Mikyx does get rooted up. The True Shot Barrage misses. Crucially, Caps gets into some trouble. He throws down the cleanse. Now he's rolling and tumbling and ducking around. Silver Bolts won't be enough to help it. Mad Lions have found the play. They got themselves 2 kills for 1, and they got themselves a teleport out of PERKZ as well.
Well, that's exactly what they needed to be looking for. When I say Pyx with the LeBlanc plus the Leona right there, able to find that one in a 1-for-2 trade. They saw Wunder bot side. They knew Jankos wasn't able to rotate up and find the pick. So even though Caps was able to find the initial kill in that exchange, Mad Lions as a team are fully committing towards the play, and they acted quickly this time. That's important. Decisive action against G2 will net you wins, and that's a good step back here for Mad Lions.
Right, really is. So here's the setup. Kaiser will get in range for Humanoid. That exhaust again reduced a lot of that early damage.
Yeah, so I feel like Humanoid might have gone in just a little bit early, because as you saw, so much damage went onto him before Caps could be CC'd up by Kaiser. Notice there's also Mikhail's Crucible on Mikyx there and the cleanse from Caps, so it is very hard to lock that guy down. Thankfully, he was low enough because the burst damage Humanoid put in that Shadow was able to finish him off. And those are sort of the 2 duels that I'm going to be looking at in team fights later on in this game, because it's very clear for Mad Lions that Caps is going to be a problem. Now, Mad Lions have 2 people that are supposed to deal with him. One is Shadow's Olaf. Now, in the 1v1, I don't think Shadow's Olaf can do anything. Caps has too much gold based off of those kills. He's even in levels with the Olaf, but when you throw Humanoid into the mix, this LeBlanc is going to be able to put damage down onto Caps. Very low range ADC on this Vayne makes it easier for Humanoid to do things, but again, in the 1v1, I still don't think it's going to work. It has to be Humanoid and Shadow working together.
Well, we'll see if they can. As it stands, Jankos is going to find himself in engage. Gets the kick into Kaiser, but it won't really go very far. Whoa, that went over the wall! PERKZ is not a little bit of trouble. He continues to chase down. So much damage onto Shadow. And the PERKZ will manage to help out the rest of the team. How did he fly over the wall?
Honestly, there was a lot going on in that fight. Yes! We're going to have to check out the replay in that one, because that was the situation. You saw it, right? G2's trying to go in a straight 5v5, right down, force it down on towards Mad Lions there, and Mad Lions weren't able to find the angle on the train to split up the team fight. That's the 3rd Cloud Drake, or the 3rd Drake being the Cloud going over to G2 now, as we'll see how the hippity-hoppity goes in this fight here. It starts off with a nice kick on towards Kaiser from Jankos, and then as we get into the dive, backline with PERKZ.
There we go.
Flips him on up there.
I missed the Sand Soldiers.
Yeah, but they couldn't quite push him over the wall. The wall is way too big for that one, but as I was sort of talking about, you see the problem with fighting in that corridor is that G2 were not able to be split up. They chose one side of the fight, so Orome and Humanoid stuck on the other, like, we can't really help you out too much with that one.
19 minutes into the game, 3 Drakes already, and I think a Cloud Drake, when you consider the movement speed in the CDR, is going to be so difficult for Mad Lions to deal with. They cannot concede Drake number 4. Caps has just picked up his Rage Blade. Nash's Tooth has been completed for PERKZ, but Carzzy is also activated Trinity Force plus a fully stacked Neuramana. Trinity Force for Orome, and he's still working to finish off that cull. A little bit behind the CS, the farming priority in this mid-stage of the game has not helped him out as much.
Right, so we're at this point now where, as you're saying, like, Carzzy has his 2 core items. That's 30 or 40% CDR now on this Ezreal, 45 if he's running into the inspiration tree there as well. So he's feeling very, very good, and this is a point in the game where he should be super, super strong and has to deliver in the fight. The problem is, because Caps has been accelerated a little bit more than was anticipated in this game for Mad Lions, is that Mad don't have the clear-cut advantage at 2 items, so they're going to have to execute very, very well in this stage of the game in order to come back, because I can't help but feel like the more time this game goes on, the better it is going to favor G2 as the Soul spawns in 3 minutes, as Baron becomes a possibility, when you have a Vayne with Bork and Rageblade to shred it down, when you have an Azir as well. All these things only make it easier for G2 to close the game. So the next 5 minutes, the next 3 minutes even around that Soul is where Mad Lions have to get a big team fight win. Otherwise, it's going to push too far away from them.
And right now, G2 are just playing very emboldened. Caps and Mikyx were pushing that mid tower, staring down a potential engage. They didn't care. They just stood firm, took the tower down. They now have the tower lead at 4-3. Wunder and PERKZ have done a good job of pushing out that bottom lane and consistently shoving it out. Still minus CS advantage in the mid lane as well as the top lane. Only Caps is a little behind us, but you don't care because he's farming champions. 5, 1, and 2. 2 minutes to Cloud. So Ender, let's talk about the process. Let's watch Mad Lions and focus on how do they set up for this. Do they even want to fight it? I feel like they have to fight it.
Yes.
So that's what I want to look at.
Yeah, they definitely will fight around this. I really like the setup right now, sending 2 players down towards the bottom side of the map. Humanoid will only be able to get a bit of chunk damage down, but the idea is here. They want to play around the bot side. They have deep vision in that jungle as well that G2 are going to have to try and clear out once they do get their resets off. The sweepers come back up and they can get through some of that. But one thing that was actually a problem for G2 in the Mad Lions series was actually when they had Lee Sin in the jungle, was that they only had 1 sweeper on their team. So there were a lot of wards that Orome was able to find big TP flanks onto and find the ways into the backline. Now, on the GP, I don't think he's going to be looking for teleport flanks, but only having 1 sweeper will mean deep wards like the one in that bot side jungle are going to persist and give Mad Lions crucial information around the Drake spawn.
And interestingly, Wunder just teleported to the top lane.
They're going to go on to Baron.
They've started this. I mean, Rage Blade, Blade of the Rune King Vayne.
Look, Trevor, Humanoid's bot lane without a teleport. G2 have full vision control of the top side jungle. It's an Olaf. How does this guy steal it?
Oh, I don't know how he gets in. He's got flash available to him. The blast gun has been popped. There's the cannon barrage already come down. Jankos has taken so much damage, though, inside the pit. That's the showstopper from Wunder. Kaiser is now taken up by Caps. They've traded for Jankos, but Orome's on the run. It's a double as Yuumi flies into Wunder and will help take out Orome. Humanoid, you're late to the party, my friend. The last Mad Lion standing, and he will be chased away. He is going to flash to safety. 4 for 1, and the Baron completely exposed.
Oh, look, Humanoid, you can run, but you cannot hide. G2 are going to be knocking on the Nexus doors soon enough right here. They had started up the Baron, and sure, they would have loved to take it, but all they wanted was the fight right there. Everyone jumping over the wall to punish Mad Lions as they had to run in completely blind into the river. It's an excellent play from G2. They execute on it very, very well, and now they're going to pick up not just the Baron, but they're going to sprint back onto the map to try and secure the soul. Watch this play one more time, because it's not like Caps can get over the wall without using his flash, but they're going to go for the full commit as the suplex delivers Wunder over the wall. Caps flashes in to assassinate the Mad Lions backline right there too. The double kill and everything as Mad Lions are the first one around the pit.
Oh, they are indeed. The Xenoblade, I think, just missed PERKZ, but Emperor's Divide would have saved him anyway. The engage comes in. Humanoid dashes forward. PERKZ still stays alive. Blast
Can Jankos steal it again?
3 into the pit. Just 2, in fact, as Mikyx goes to save Jankos. The Cloud Drake is available. 1500 HP. PERKZ is very, very low. But Caps, as well as Wunder, are holding on 4. The Soul Point is picked up by G2 Esports. The Mad Lions are being ripped apart. Carzzy, however, on the back end of the fight, will do some work. It's a 4 for 3, but they lose the soul.
Carzzy was trying to play the fight of his life right there, but it's not enough in the end. Somehow Jankos returns at the end with 100% HP after being chunked out. He got healed, he jumped into the pit to find the steal, and now it's him and Mikyx versus Shadow underneath the tower. It is not enough. They cannot be stopped, and G2 are running away with this game.
That just felt personal. Jankos running down Shadow for the 16th kill. Shadow got 16 kills on Olaf to finish out game number 5, and the team is being crushed. We'll keep our eyes on Jankos. I think he gets so much healing from Mikyx.
Yeah, so Mad Lions were trying to win the fight here, committing a lot towards PERKZ, but not damaging the Dragon. So even though they do chunk out Jankos, and that was supposed to finish off the kill, he dashed away from the final skill shot from Carzzy, and then is able to return into the pit with the Q over the wall. Wunder doing so much work, just zoning into the backline, killing people while somehow surviving for a stupidly long amount of time. And now Caps is on the hunt. Orome versus... Oh, no.
Yeah, he's down. He's down 0-4-2. This Gangplank has not had a fun time. Admittedly, the game started to fall away from other lanes. So by the time Orome was allowed to play League of Legends, he was not particularly well set up for success. G2 Esports have opened this game extremely confidently. The first pick uni And the second phase Vayne have stolen this game away. 14 out of 17 kills involved for Caps, and 16 out of 17 kills involved for Mikyx. They've led from the front. Once again, much like the Origin series.
It's just crazy, you know. We saw the Aphelios Zillion combo with Caps last week. Now it's the Vayne plus Yuumi dealing absolute damage to Mad Lions here. Humanoid's down bot lane. They're giving up their base right now. G2 on the siege as they get big damage down, though.
Yeah, they really do. This should be a counter kill, not just yet. Finally, Wunder goes down. Caps and Jankos start to back away, but you got to be very, very careful. That's a very fed Vayne. While that's going on, Humanoid, without that TP, continues to play the side lane. PERKZ will be chipping away at that inhibitor. G2 will at least open the doors to Mad Lion's base, but have not yet broken it apart.
Oh no, not again!
Oh, this is a dead gangplank. I mean, you just cannot get away from that. Actually, ironically, I think if Caps would build a Frozen Mallet, he could stick to people even closer. I learned a little bit from LEC Update. But now Caps and Mikyx, you've bitten off a lot, but you're not going to be able to take down 4 in total. Mikyx will get dropped as well, donating 2 kills to the Mad Lions cause.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a G2 game without getting a little bit loose towards the finish right there, as Carzzy slowly picking up a lot of gold in this game. Should be able to finish off that Blade of the Rune King very, very soon. So the gold not as big as you would expect when G2 have taken a Baron, have the Soul, have 2 inhibitor towers broken on the side of Mad Lions.
I've got a question for you, because I feel like G2 have done a lot of very good things this game, but I also feel that Mad Lions have to a similar degree, but you know, G2 are just playing at a slightly higher level. You know, can you rate or review the overall performance of Mad Lions this game and you know, how they've opened the series?
So it's a really interesting question to me, because I feel like Mad Lions at times have been playing like at their peak, like very strong. Like you look at the first, you know, 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay, it was really good. But you had those small hiccups, right, where the bot lane's pushing without putting down a ward when they know the Jankos could be down there and Shadow can't be. Then
and
you have
Orome top.
Yeah, the Orome top play. Even before that, you had all 5 members of Mad Lions down bot side trying to siege a tower, but then Humanoid leaves, Orome starts leaving, and then all of a sudden G2 teleport on them. So I feel like Mad Lions have had the right idea a lot of the time, but it were those crucial mistakes that somehow Caps comes away with 5 kills, and now team fights are just so like near impossible for Mad Lions to win that the last 10 minutes they've been trying to come back in their own ways, but eventually it's going to come down to a 5v5 that is very unrealistic that they'd be able to win.
Okay, so that's what I want to look for in the next game. We've seen a lot of series open in one direction and then pivot throughout the course of our playoffs. So for Mad Lions, look, they're down 5k. They've got to deal with a 12, 3, and 4 Vayne that has a full item advantage over Carzzy. You know, Mercurial Scimitar as well as the Phantom Dancer to back it up. PERKZ
and a Cleanse and a Mikhail's, like you can't CC the man.
And Yuumi and the Exhaust. So it is a very difficult situation for the Mad Lions to come back in this game. Admittedly, they do have some poke, they do have some pick potential. But Jankos has got some support from the rest of the team. He's going to jump in onto Shadow, kick him back before the Ragnarok can be enabled. And here comes Caps. That's a chapter already locking down Orome. Got to find himself one. Flashing through the gate. Caps is tumbling and rolling around. Already used the flash. Exhaust is on cooldown. There's no tower, remember. And Caps will finally get taken out by Humanoid, but at the cost of his entire team. This could be the final fight. The inhibitor's going down. There are minions pouring through the mid lane. Humanoid, you need to get back to defend. He's got no TP. The recall will take 2 time. He's just conceding it. They've conceded it. Right, G2 Esports has smashed Mad Lions. 30 minutes on the clock, 23 kills underneath their belt. 19 of those 23 kills was thanks to Caps, Vayne, and 22 out of 23 to Mikyx Yuumi. G2 opened the series 1-0.
Wow. You know, game 1 needed to be a statement from G2, and bringing out the Vayne absolutely was that. They crushed through that game. Caps looked near unstoppable in those fights, and now, like, you know, coming into the series, you're saying, hey, last time G2 had to scramble after game 1. Well, now it's Mad Lions that are going to have to be able to figure out some way to deal with this Vayne. I don't think you can ban the Vayne, but do you have to remove the Yuumi? Then there's too many things you got to get rid of.
I mean, if you remove the Uni, in theory, it also reduces the priority on likes of Ezreal as well. So side selection is going to be very important. Mad Lions chose red side for this game. They will have side selection again. for game 2 as they lost. But I want to see them tidy up some of those plays because I really liked your summary, and the ideas or the decisions were good, but then minor missteps in execution, that's kind of what allowed G2 to get their foot in the door, and that's all G2 needed to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, G2 said very clearly, we are going to play through this bottom lane, and Caps will reach that point of critical mass where you can't dive in and kill him anymore, and he's just going to 1v9 the game, and that point came at 8 minutes into the match. That was certainly unexpected, but it's a testament to how G2 were able to punish Mad Lions consistently throughout.
I feel really good about the quality of the opening game. Frostgoat in particular had a very impassioned statement talking about how G2 really didn't play clean. Didn't really show up the last time they played against Mad Lions. This is a slightly different look, and I think I'm going to project a little bit. I felt that Mad Lions were a little bit nervous. Look, after the break, the analysts will take a look at how Caps ran away with the game and whether or not Mad Lions will be able to shut him down.
Make your way to the pit. He got it! He gets the Baron. Is it going to be enough? Now the rest of the team has to retreat. There's 2 members knocked in by Fnatic. Fnatic don't even care. It was a bait to get the fight kicked off. They don't mind.
I've always tried to become the player that has the most titles so that when I'm done playing, everyone will always compare their own records against mine.
I know one thing. I can say that with confidence that I'm 100% sure there's going to be 3 on our end of the scoreboard.
Up.
Hello, everybody. Let the game begin.
The time will come to be blessed, a harder way to celebrate his loneliness. Visit each line, a line, a line, a line, a line.
Welcome back, everyone, to the LEC Spring Semi-Finals. Well, Verius, aka Andy Dildavis Day, said there will be blood coming into this best of 5. And blood there was. What an absolutely suffocating amount of aggression coming out of G2 and adequate responses from the Mad Lions.
It was a little bit slow to start, but it did feel like as soon as G2 had their foot on the gas and Vayne was given those 2 kills, that you could suddenly feel Caps be like, I have the power now. This game is mine. And he was so confident to move around everywhere and start murdering people.
And I have to talk about this draft because I think it was a clear sign of preparation from G2. There was some discussion coming into this week around how much did G2 actually prep against Mad when they first played against each other, how much respect did they show. I think in this draft, we clearly saw it. With the bans towards Aphelios, that was directly towards Carzzy. They don't want to give him that freedom. But then with the first pick, Yuumi, question marks start to come up. Why would you first pick this support? Clearly, the enemy team is just going to take the Ezreal away from you, and they can still give their support a strong, engage playmaker that Kaiser likes to play. And you're like, okay, fine, they'll just lock in something else. They must have something else prepared, but then they save their AD carry to the second half. Like, what is G2 thinking? What are they doing? They lock in Lee Sin, they lock in Azir, that 2v2 mid-jungle duo. You're like, what? What are they doing? Like, this doesn't seem to make any sense. And then they're like, okay. Now, Mad, you have to make a choice. Do you want to get a strong jungler, or do you want to get a strong winning matchup in the mid lane, right? And so they lock in LeBlanc, and you're like, okay, surely, G2's now going to ban away the Olaf. They leave it open, and you're like, what? You're literally giving Mad the Mad draft. They have a strong bot side of the map, they're winning 2v2 mid-jungle, and they have Olaf, which is one of Shadow's best champions. Like, what are they thinking? And then the Vayne comes through, and this is where everything starts to click for G2, because not only can you play that 2v2 in the bot side of the map, it is a perfect setup to be able to kite back against the Olaf. You win in a side lane against the LeBlanc as well, and this pick in isolation was just so good to pretty much answer everything that Mad wanted to try and draft.
Which is why when we look at the order, I was actually really surprised. Like, when you break down the logic and the way that you did Verius, it makes sense that they're thinking, like, it's fine, we're still going to get a superior 2v2 if we have a Lee Sin or an Olaf, but to not prioritize the Lee Sin as highly as they did by picking Leona in second second pick phase for red, like Ezreal Leo, I'm like, you don't need to pick the Leo there. You actually could have grabbed the Lee Sin and you could have secured LeBlanc Lee Sin and had the strong 2v2 and then had a champion that doesn't necessarily get countered as hard by Vayne. Like, yeah, Vayne can still just shoot Lee Sin away, but at least he has ways to jump back on top of her. Whereas Olaf, he ever rocks into bot lane, Vayne's just going to condemn him away and be like, peace, brah, good try.
I mean, that is also kind of what we started seeing, right? We just saw a replay just earlier about the early double kill that Caps got in that bottom lane. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can go with that, Vayne, because you know she's always going to scale adequately, if not monstrously, into the late game. But they chose to accelerate that path by putting that gank down bottom immediately and clearly signaling, we're going to put everything on Caps this game.
And I also think it fits into G2's playstyle because when you springboard the Vayne and you funnel all those resources into her, you're not just preparing a strong 5v5 because, yeah, you do have the Azir, but you also have Set and Vayne and Azir with teleport. You could play any side lane. And so there was a breaking point in this game where Mad Lions, unless they got hyper fed on the LeBlanc, that they would just lose out in side lanes, especially when you have a Vayne Yuumi. Like, that's the cool thing about that ADC champion is that she doesn't have to just stand behind her Azir and fight you front to back. She can piece out to a side lane and destroy anyone. And as soon as she had all those kills, you're like, well, I guess this game's over because even if this stalls out into big 5v5s, Caps can just leave to a side lane and there's no one who can match her.
Yeah, and I think this is where we kind of come back to the game plan of Mad, because the reason why you lock in LeBlanc into Azir is because post-level 6, you have a huge amount of gank setup, and that's why I was so afraid for G2 when you look at this Olaf and LeBlanc duo. And then, when you think about how the game should play out, you want the bot side of the map to play defensively. You actually want your Leona roaming mid, and you want to just 3-man attack that Azir to then open up your LeBlanc to start roaming around the map. And then when you can do that, it becomes a lot harder for Vayne to play the game. She has to play in her shell, she has to play a lot more defensively. But everything went wrong in that first early game B-roll that we saw. And then it propelled even further when the Vayne kept getting kills. And when we look at the next replay, you can see how things just seem to get worse, because what Mad tried to do is this idea of, okay, let's start grouping up a little bit more, and let's start trying to get numbers advantage. Let's start trying to force more of these skirmishes, more of these fights, because, hey, Vayne isn't quite at a point where she's uncontrollable yet. Let's instead try to force this fight. And you can see, like, initially, oh, okay, with the GP ultimate, with the extra globals, 3 versus 3, we force the bot lane back. But then they lure Mad into a false sense of security. Mad think that they have control, they're the ones setting up the dive, and they're the ones with the collapse. But again, now the TP strats are coming in for G2. They're using the strats that Mad used against them. The flank TP comes in from the set, they're coming for the collapse, and there's nothing you can do against this Vayne that's just slowly running you down after all the ultimates are left on cooldown. And it's just good awareness from G2 to recognize, oh, there's a window, we can attack, let's continue to snowball, and Mad just kept getting punished.
It's skipping steps. It's the fact that it took them so long to figure out how to get priority back for LeBlanc and never really using the strong 2v2 and even bringing Kaiser, like you alluded to there, Vedius. And you know, when we talk about the first series and why Mad were able to beat G2, and we say like, oh, but that wasn't G2 playing on their best, this is a perfect example of it, because it shows some of the greenness and some of the inexperience of Mad, that they make macro and strategy mistakes there. Like, they don't think, okay, if I take my Olaf in lane, my Leo mid, I get prio for LeBlanc, I then can move her, and then we can dive with the Gangplank ultimate. Like, that's how it should go. Instead, they just try to run Gangplank and Olaf down there, and then they come up short, it snowballs out of their control, Vayne gets the kills, and suddenly the game is broken.
Yeah, and I think that exactly as you say, Frosk, I just think that the game plan, or at least like the early game, is where things collapse, right? And when we look back at the first time that these two played in that best of 5, we had 2 early games where Mad won one fight in the river at level 3,
and
they
G2
snowballed
on the other.
off the back of it. And then G2 won the other, and then they snowballed off the back of it. So am I going to count the chickens before they've hatched? No. I still think that Mad could make exactly the same thing happen in game 2, and they can find themselves an early lead. It was just that one single mistake of a very early lead that G2 got that they were then able to snowball off of. But it was very important that Mad didn't allow that to happen. Coming into game 2, I don't think they need to change a huge amount. They just have to respect and be a little bit more aware, because that kind of early game mistake can very heavily punish you.
I still just think that the first series, there were too many advantages given to Mad that were reactions to bad decision-making from G2, where G2 took a bad fight and Mad punished them. So again, still credit, because when a team throws, you have to credit the other team who catches the ball, and Mad did that. But in this first game, in this of the series so far, G2 are not making the same bad choices that they did. And so there's less opportunity for Mad to punish, and that's why you get such a different look, where suddenly G2 just blow a game apart.
Well, there we go, and it is, as said, you're only as good as the last game you played, and in essence, it doesn't matter what you did 2 weeks ago. It's now that you have to perform, and if we look at just the sample size of this game, we do see a bit of a different look at G2. They're still doing G2 things, but they seem to be on the money in terms of when they execute. Now, if there was a player of the game vote, which there isn't, I think it would be probably go to Caps. It's such a difficult one to talk about, right? It's such a big point of contention and discussion, but I mean, he got those 2 kills early, and you could say, yes, but his jungler helped, but that's how the game is played, and he played it out to perfection on this Vayne.
I mean, I love that we still saw the classic Caps of even when he's not on Ezreal, he's still flashing forward. He's still diving into the faces of his enemy, regardless of what champion he plays. And like, what I find funniest about this is so many people wanted to see him back on mid lane champions. Lo and behold, he's one of his well-known mid lane champions back in the bot lane once again with the Vayne. So I think it's definitely a big opportunity, and I'm excited to see what he can do for the rest of the series.
All right, yes, there we go. Caps played as Vayne. We'll see what they pull out as we go forward. G2, they took one step towards that final tomorrow, but Mad Lions are looking to balance things out when we come back.